And I think that's where the governments need to step in a little bit. You know, a good proactive government doesn't just issue rules which sort of keep people down, but they issue rules to make markets function properly.
So I'm really interested in going beyond regulations and sustainability. How can MonetaGo make the world more sustainable?
That's a good question. There's an ESG, I'll come back to that because that's quite a bit of a buzz term at the moment.
It's a little bit greenwashy now, isn't it?
It is, there's a risk of that, yeah. But sustainable for me is something which you do on a regular basis and which is going to be there for the duration, so for a long term. It's not sort of do it today and it's gone tomorrow. So we talked about the values before, you know, the $100 trillion, which is a mind-blowing number. Yeah. And the number that we're looking at addressing is, say, well, all of that really. But there's a gap in there at the moment, which is sort of a 1.7 trillion, which is when something goes wrong, the bankers pull all the money away. But that pain that's felt is not pain, which is felt equally throughout the whole system. The big guys are generally okay because they can go and get it from somewhere else, but it's always the smaller guys. Yeah, so the smaller guys generally get the wrong end of that, and so they don't get it. So basically, when times are good, they get the money. When times are bad, it goes away. So it's not sustainable. So they can't do things which are sustainable for their economy because the money may not be there tomorrow when they need it. So if you take a big chunk of that fraud out of the equation, which you said was 5 trillion, you know, even if you take 1% out of that, that's $50 billion. If you just take 1% of that fraud away, you know, that can do an awful lot of good. So if you can actually do that on a regular basis and make sure that system is more safe and less risky, the chances of those guys having access to that money over a longer term is higher. And if they've got access to that money, then they can do the things in their economies which help those economies and those parts of the economy develop over time. So the economy benefits.
Quite an indirect way of helping though, isn't it?
Yeah, but if they don't get the money from anywhere else, because in banking terms, they're so small that people won't give them money on the back of their credit score. So then they've got to look at the transactions that they're doing. But if they are doing transactions and you can't understand or take the risk out of there from a fraud point of view, they just don't get the money. So, you know, you've got the large, medium, small customers, but you're constantly having the small customers out of the equation. So the rich will continue to get richer and the poor will continue to get poorer. And I think that's where the governments need to step in a little bit. You know, a good proactive government doesn't just issue rules which sort of keep people down, but they issue rules to make markets function properly. So take the India example. I mean, we've got a good example in India, which is our initial market when we launched MonetaGo there. And the central bank said, okay, the smaller guys are not getting access to money. And they're not getting access to money because there's too much fraud around. So we'll set up 3 of these exchanges where they can go and present their bills if you want, and they get paid against those bills, which the money might come back in 30, 60 days. But we're worried that somebody's going to then defraud them and take them between these exchanges and sort of take the same money from 3 different banks basically and then run away. So he said, if we can have a solution sitting under there, which actually allows them to come safely to this place, get their money, but it functions and it's sustainable. So we de-risk that part of the market. These small guys will have constant access to money or money on a sustainable basis to go and do the things that they need to do in their businesses. So there were 3 exchanges there, and the central bank said, okay, you sit underneath them and you make sure that naughty stuff doesn't happen basically, and you can identify and prevent some of this fraud going on. So now we've done that, and then we're seeing billions of dollars literally go through the top of it. So this is billions of dollars from small companies getting access to finance that they wouldn't have got before. And then we're actually preventing already a certain percentage we've got. We can see about 1%. So 1% of those, say 12, 15 billion is about, 1.2, it's about 120, 130 million dollars worth of fraud that we've detected. Wow. So it's only a small part, and it's not the total part of the market. But if I am a bank and I lend 1 million and it goes bust, or I don't get it back, then I stop lending 10 times more than that. So 120 million probably goes up to $1 billion, $2 billion. So we've enabled that money to stay in the market and do the things for the small and medium-sized customers that wouldn't have happened before and hadn't happened for many years before. So that's a long answer to the sustainability question, but that's part of it, an angle in there.